Okay, this is for Algebra 1, and this is day 3 of exponents. Very important that you remember that if you have a negative exponent, you must move it to the other part of the fraction. Let's talk about that for just a minute. If you have x to the negative 2, it becomes 1 over x to the positive 2. When you move it, that negative goes away and it's positive now. Another thing you need to be aware of is that if you had x to the third over y to the negative 2. To fix it, if it's a negative in the bottom, you simply move it to the top and it becomes x to the third y squared. The only thing that you move is what had the negative exponent. So if you had x to the third y to the negative 2, the only thing that moves is your y to the negative 2. So it becomes x to the third over y squared. Your x to the third stays where it is. One other issue that comes up with this that causes some confusion is we're only talking about exponents. If you have negative 2 x to the third, that's okay because negative is with the 2, which is at the front, a big number, a coefficient, if you will, and so it's legal. It's not causing a problem and nothing has to move. If you had something like negative 2 x to the negative 3, then this would have to move, but that's all that moves. Your negative 2 is okay, it stays where it is, and your x to the negative 3 goes to the bottom and becomes positive. So hopefully that will clarify some issues with your negative exponents. Also remember that anything to the 0 power equals 1. If you have x to the third, y to the 0, that becomes just x to the third. If you have 2x, y to the third, all to the 0, the whole thing is equal to 1. So just don't forget those rules. Okay, today we're going to do the power law of exponents, and this is when you call, or what I call, raising a power to a power. When you raise a power to a power, you actually raise the coefficients, the big numbers, to that power, which means you're going to use your rooftop on the calculator. And then you will multiply the exponents. So looking at A, your base is 2, your base stays the same, and then you multiply your exponents. So 2 times 3 is 6, and this is your answer. On B, your base is 10, and then you're going to say 4 times 2 is 8. On C, your base is x, and then you're going to say 4 times 5 is 20. Looking at D, we have a coefficient now. So you're going to take this 3 here, and you're going to rooftop it to the exponent, which is also 3. So you would just take your calculator, go to your home screen, and you would say 3 rooftop 3 enter, and you would get 27. And then you would take your base, which is x, and you would multiply your exponent. So 2 times 3 is 6. So that's 27x to the 6th. Your base here is 6, and then 3 times 2 is 6. Your base is 11, 2 times 2 is 4. Your base is 6, your base is b, 6 times 8 is 48. Okay, so here you've got two things going on. You want to deal with this one, then this one, then multiply. So everything in here has to be raised to the third. So this becomes x to the third, y to the 6th, because you're raising a power to a power, so you're multiplying your exponents. This one becomes 2 squared. That's like 2 rooftop 2. 2 times 2 is 4. X to the 3 times 2 is 6. Y to the 4 times 2 is 8. Now we're multiplying, so we're having to do a second step here. This is what we did on the first day. When you're multiplying, you multiply your coefficients and you add your exponents. There is no coefficient in the first one, so it's like saying 1 times 4 is 4. Put your x down, 3 plus 6 is 9. Put your y down, 6 plus 8 is 14. So this had 2 steps to it. Can't forget about division that we did in the previous lesson. Your base is x. You will subtract, so you will say 5 minus 3, and you get x squared. Going to the next page. Draw a fraction. This is reminding you about what we did in the previous lesson. 2 over 6 What you want to do if you're not sure is you do 2 divided by 6 in your calculator. So 2 divided by 6, you get a decimal, and so then you go math, enter, enter, and you figure out that it is 1/3. Don't forget that we did math, enter, enter. There's an x in the top and the bottom, so you're going to have an x, and you're going to say 1 minus 3 is -2. You have a y, and you say 2 minus 1 is 1. And then you have a z, 1 minus 1 is 0, so they're gone. This cannot be my answer because I don't allow negative exponents. It becomes y over 3x squared. The only thing you move is the term that, or the variable that had the negative exponent. All right, this next one goes back to what we did on day 1. So you're going to say 2 times 4 is 8. You have an x, you're going to say 1 plus 1 is 2. You have a y, you're going to say 3 plus 1 is 4. You have a z, you're going to say 2 plus 3 is 5. Make sure that if there is not an exponent written, you realize it's a 1 and you actually add that. Okay, so this next one makes you do a lot of different things. You've got a power to a power and then a power to a power on the bottom also, and then you have to divide. So one step at a time is the way you handle this. Take this one and everything inside parentheses has to be squared. So 4 squared is 16. X, 1 times 2 is 2. Y, 3 times 2 is 6. Draw your line, and now everything in the bottom has to be raised to the 3rd power. So you're going to do 2 rooftop 3 on your calculator, and you're going to get 8. Y to the 2 times 3 is 6. You need to reduce this. It should catch your eye that you have a y to the 6th in the top and the bottom. That means they cancel and the y is completely gone. 16 divided by 8 is 2, and you have an x squared. It's okay to leave the bottom empty and to make it where it's not even a fraction. On this next one, you're going to start by bringing everything in here to the second. We have a -2 squared. Be careful on that. When you're squaring a negative number, put it in parentheses, -2 close squared, and you get a positive 4. So we have 4. X to the 3 times 2 is 6. Y to the 1 times 2 is 2. So there's your first one. Times, now everything in here gets raised to the 3rd. So -1 in parentheses, rooftop 3 is -1. X to the 3 times 3 is 9. Y to the 4 times 3 is 12. Now you're multiplying, so new rules. Multiply the coefficients, add the exponents. 4 times -1 is -4. X to the 6 plus 9 is 15. Y to the 2 plus 12 is 14. This is your answer. All right, if you have something like this, you want to see if you can combine what's inside your parentheses first. 3x times 4x. That would be 3 times 4 is 12, x to the 2nd because you added your exponents, and then all of that gets cubed. So do what's inside first. Hint, this is going to show up on your homework. So 3 times 4 is 12, x times x is x squared. Now 12 to the 3rd, just use your calculator. 12 rooftop 3, oops, got to get that rooftop pressed. 12 rooftop 3, and you get 1728. X to the 2 times 3 is 6, and that is your answer. Make sure you do what's inside your parentheses first. Okay, I believe that is all of the notes for this. If you have any questions, call me over. Otherwise, you are ready for your assignment.